Okay, so we're going to do question 7 in workshop 1 for negotiation and market strategy. So part A of the question asking you to find a dominant strategy equilibrium in the following game. So in this game we have two players, player A and player B. Player A has an option of going left or right, and player B has an option to either go up or down. Okay, and these are the payoffs for each of the player depending on what they choose to do. Alright, so now in order to find the equilibrium, we will just have to do exactly what we have been doing so far. So we just have to find the optimal strategy for each of the player given the strategy chosen by the other one. Okay, so we are starting with player A first. So now we try to find the optimal strategy for player A given the strategy chosen by player B. Okay, so now we have if player B decide to go up, chooses up, what is going to be the optimal strategy for player A? Okay, so basically we're looking at the first row of the column where player B is going up. Now player A can either go left or right. Now if she's going left, she's going to get 20. If she's going right, she's going to get 30. So going right is going to be better. Alright, so I'll put 1 star there. So optimal strategy for player A in this case is to go right. Alright, now if player B decided to go down, what is going to be the optimal strategy for player A? So we are looking at the second row of the table, and player A by going left is going to get 5, going right is going to get 15. 15 is better than 5, so we put a star here. So optimal strategy for player A is again to go right. Okay, so if you're looking at that again, it's easy to see that right is going to be the so it's going to be a dominant strategy for player A because she's going to go right anyway regardless of what player B is choosing. Okay, so right is a dominant strategy. Okay, for player A. Alright, so we are done with player A. Now we just have to do exactly the same thing for player B, trying to find the optimal strategy. Okay, so if player A chooses left, what is going to be the optimal strategy for player B? Okay, so if we're looking at the table over here, now if player A choosing left, we're basically looking at the first column. Player B, if choosing to go up, he will get 20, and if he chooses to go down, he will get 30. Okay, now 30 is better than 20, so I'll just put a star here. Alright, so optimal strategy for player B is to go down. Now if player A is choosing to go right, the optimal strategy for player B is going to be what? So we're looking at the second column over here. Now if B is going up, he will get 5, and if he's going down, he will get 15. Again, 15 is better than 5, so he is going to go down. Okay, so optimal strategy for player B is to go down. Alright, so again, it's obvious to see that down is a dominant strategy for player B because he's going to go down all the time. Doesn't matter what player A is doing. Okay, so that is a dominant strategy for B. Okay, so therefore equilibrium is very easy to see. From the table over here, you can see that equilibrium is the one that got 2 stars in it, and that is for player A to go right and for player B to go down. Okay, so for player A to go right and for player B to go down. So as you can see, they are playing their dominant strategy in equilibrium. Okay, so again, this is called a dominant strategy equilibrium. Okay, now part B, is this equilibrium a prisoner's dilemma? If so, why? And if not, how is that different? Okay, so again, if you're looking back at the previous question where we are specifying all the characteristic for a prisoner dilemmas game, then we know that in order for the game to be a prisoner dilemma, okay, then each of the player has to have a dominant strategy. Okay, so the first requirement is each player, okay, has a dominant strategy. Now in this case, yes, it is. Okay, player A has a dominant strategy of going right, and player B has a dominant strategy of going down. Okay, so which is yes. Okay, A has a dominant strategy of going right, okay, and B, okay, has a dominant strategy of going down. So the first requirement is satisfied. Okay, now so the second requirement is that we have a unique, okay, dominant strategy equilibrium. Okay, so as you can see, again, the second condition is satisfied because we have one unique equilibrium which is right down in this case. Okay, so which is right and down that we found earlier, so that's good. That's good. And the last requirement is that the total surplus or the total payoffs, okay, for the two player is not maximized. Okay, so now if we can find some other strategy that is going to be making both of the players better off, then our equilibrium is not the optimal equilibrium. Okay, so as you can see over here, if player B choosing to go up and player A choosing to go left, each of them is going to get 20 and 20, which is going to be better than what they are getting in the equilibrium, which is only 15. Okay, so if they are deciding to go up and left together, then they are going to be better off, both of them, right? However, because they are playing their dominant strategy, they're ending up with a lower payoff. Okay, so therefore the total payoff is not maximized for the two players. So say the players are better off, okay, if they choose left, okay, and up, okay, because they will get alright, so they will get 20 each, right, instead of 15 as in the equilibrium. Alright, alright, so the equilibrium is not maximized. Okay, the equilibrium outcome is not the optimal outcome, so therefore the third requirement is satisfied. Alright, so therefore the game is a prisoner dilemma game. Okay, and the last part of the question asking you how can players in the prisoner's dilemma solve the dilemma. That is, how can the parties try to get the surplus maximizing outcome. Okay, so how do we get the two players to play left and up instead of playing right and down? Okay, so Okay, so the surplus maximizing right outcome in this case is for the two player to play left and up. Okay, and each of them is going to get 20 instead of 15. Now, how do we motivate this? How do we keep the player from playing their dominant strategy, equilibrium, and to play something better to get a higher payoff? Okay, now one way of doing this is to basically eliminate the option of going down right. Okay, so the only option for the two player is basically to go left and up, and that is one way to prevent the players from choosing their dominant strategy. Okay, so the first way is to to get rid of or to make the option of going down and right unavailable. Okay, so to get rid of the option of going right and down, okay, for the two players. Okay, so the second way of doing this is to have the game play repeatedly for an infinite number of times. Okay, so to have the game played for an infinite number of times or number of periods. Okay, now if this is the case, then as you can see, each of the player has an incentive to play their dominant strategy. Okay, so they will not stick to the surplus maximizing outcome. So if you're looking back at our table over here, now the optimal outcome is up and left, okay, in which each of them is going to earn 20. However, if player A keep playing left, okay, keep going left as in the agreement, then player B has an incentive to cheat and to go down because he's going to get 30 instead of getting 20. Okay, so if he's going up, he get 20, but if he's going down, he's going to get 30. So he's always going to have an incentive to cheat and to deviate from the agreement, okay, and for him to play his dominant strategy, which is going down. So if player A is sticking to the agreement and playing left, player B always gonna have an incentive to cheat. It's very similar for player A as well. Okay, if player B is sticking to playing up as in the agreement, player A is going to have an incentive to cheat by going right instead of going left as in the agreement, because going right is going to give player A a payout 30 instead of getting 20 as in the agreement. Okay, so if one party is cooperating, the other party always has an incentive to cheat and go the other way, because they are going to play, they always have an incentive to play their dominant strategy. Alright, so in order to prevent this, one way is that for the game to be played or to be repeated for infinite number of times. Now, if there is always going to be a future period in which the two players are going to be playing together again, then whoever is cheating in this period is going to be punished in the next period. Okay, and because there is a possibility of a future trade or a future period, then the one who is going to cheat in this period always going to have to think about what is going to happen tomorrow. Okay, if I cheat now, it's always going to be the next period in which I'm going to be punished. Okay, so they will have to think about it, and that is one way for the players to have an incentive to stick to their agreement and to not to cheat. Okay, so I would say, because there is always going to be a future period, okay, in which the cheating party is going to be punished. Okay, All right, so the threat or the possibility of being punished is going to keep the player from cheating, and it's going to keep them stick to the agreement that they already have. Okay, it's going to be punished. All right. Now the third way to prevent the two parties from cheating and to have them stick to their surplus maximizing outcome is to have a third party intervention. Okay, so now this third party is normally in the real life being a government. Okay, so intervention. Alright, so for example, if the two firms are deciding to cooperate on setting the price high, if one firm decided to cheat and set their price low in order to capture more market share, then the government can do something about it. Okay, so for example, the government can give a penalty to whoever that is setting the price low, and to prevent them from doing that. Okay, so this party is normally the government. Okay, so for example, in this case, the government will tell the two players, now if anyone going if anyone going right or going down, you are going to be getting a fine. Okay, so you are going to be penalized for doing that. And if that's the case, then the two parties are going to be more likely to stick to their agreement and not to cheat. Okay, so okay, so I would say penalize. Alright, the party who is going or who cheats. Okay. Alright, so they can have a policy to prevent the firm from setting the price low, to prevent the firm from setting a higher quantity in order to capture more market share, in order to get a higher profit. Or they can impose some sort of overtime penalty or overtime fine if the firm is making the worker work more in order to produce more output. Okay, so by doing that sort of thing, the government is basically preventing the firms from cheating, from trying to get more market share in the real life. Okay, now in this example, the government can say, okay, if I can see you going right or going down, I'm going to penalize you. Okay, I'm going to charge you a fine for doing that. And by doing so, they're basically going to prevent the firm from cheating.